morning and welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. Each Wednesday morning, 0815 to 0900 hours. Present here to my right is the major domo of things, Miss Judy Busby, who is about to introduce our guest this morning. Judith and I go to a lot of trouble trying to come up with some different guests of various fields, professional and personal endeavors. And she came up with the idea that we ought to introduce the man we're going to bring on the air right now. Go ahead, Mrs. Busby.
Yes, this is Matt Viner, and he's the assistant dog warden for the county of Logan. And I just learned that the state of Illinois demands that every county have a facility such as ours, only maybe not quite as big.
Right.
Yeah. So how long have you been an assistant dog warden, Matt Viner?
Right now, it's almost 2 years.
And you like that, right?
Yeah, I do. Well, there's some good and some bad to it, yes.
I'm sure there's some good and some bad. Some people just feel it incumbent upon them to abuse their animal.
Some
I guess
do,
because
yes.
they're bigger than it. So they feel they can push it around, huh?
Yep.
Doesn't that make you furious?
It does. It does, but that's why we're here, is to help protect those animals and get them to better homes. So.
Well, bless your heart. We were talking off the air about puppy mills, and I know that's a term that we've all used. I don't even think we really know what we're talking about. Can you go ahead and give us a job description of a puppy mill owner?
Puppy mills are basically breeders of several dogs, and those dogs eventually get sold to corporate businesses such as like PetSmart or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's something in those ways where they can sell them for profit from that point. There's not really anything good about those. They're pretty much caged the entire time. Mm-hmm. Only when they're bred is when they are able to get out. But essentially they live in a cage. Mm-hmm. and they're just
doesn't
bred.
Sound like a happy life.
No, not at all.
Are there breeds that you'd recommend over others if you're a young family with young kids?
Well, some people like the purebreds. I don't recommend them because they usually end up having a lot of health issues.
For the purpose of our listeners, let's define purebreds, sir.
Like a Yorkie or just even a golden retriever.
That didn't just happen. It was intentional.
Right. You really want to look for a Heinz 57. You want something that's mixed with a bunch of breeds.
Well, I've always understood that if you get a mixed breed, they're liable to be less uppity and high-strung.
I'm not sure about their behavior, but medically it's good because they have all those genes mixed, so they're not just stuck with like just a couple genes that they were bred with or whatever. So you have a bunch of genes that are mixed together. So with like German Shepherds with like hip problems or knee problems, if you have a German Shepherd mixed with a Lab that's mixed with a Beagle or something like that, you might not get those problems.
Well, and you can get a German Shepherd that's mixed with a Lab and a Beagle.
Oh, I'm sure they're out there.
They have them.
Yeah, it'll be a funny-looking dog, but...
Yeah, but that's not even the criteria most of the time. I know over the years when we were kids, and then when I had my kids, and we had a dog always. I just thought it was part of the package. And some of them didn't look quite so fancy.
No, but they'll still love you just as much.
Well, that's right. And I always thought that they might be a more patient type animal. Did I guess right?
Yeah, absolutely. They can be.
One of the things in acquiring a dog for your child is the actual physical care of the dog. A fox terrier is going to be a heck of a lot easier to take care of than an English Springer Spaniel.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Same thing with like a husky. Huskies are high maintenance. Great
But
Danes.
they're handsome.
Yes, and they're loud too. But like even with Great Danes, high maintenance animal. Your American Bulls or something like that, high maintenance. And plus they come with issues, part of their genetics. So I always, like I say, I always go for the mutts. I go for the ones that are mixed with whatever. So
Well, and they're generally a lot less expensive.
yeah,
Like they're free.
money wise on animals, I guess you give or take on which breed you're really gonna shoot for, but then really think about what you're getting into, because later on when they begin to become older, those problems will start surfacing, and then it's going to cost you even more than what you have actually put into it. So way more.
Yeah, people are like that too, aren't we,
Yes.
Bill?
I don't want to go there. Mr. Viner, let's identify for whom you work. Lincoln Animal Control, is that the correct name?
It's a Logan County Animal Control.
Logan County, thank
Yep.
you, sir. Yeah.
But we are based in Lincoln, Illinois, so.
Now, if somebody calls about a dog, stray dog over out or between Burton View and New Holland, there's not much you can do about that.
We can go check it out. That's about all we can do.
Drive around looking.
The crummy part is we'll get, like, because we have, I think it's like 300 plus square miles is Logan County. So
Excuse me.
we could be going as far as San Joe's, to just before Williamsville, to Latham, to what's that, Cornland. You guys ever heard of Cornland? Never even heard of that. I was like, what?
It's real.
I know. We can be spread out in or Middletown even. The bad part about that is it's going to take us a while to get there, because
Sure.
like it's only Jane and I. We do have a couple part-time staff. We're actually still looking for help. We do have an individual leaving here shortly that does on calls and stuff like that too, but we still need plenty of help. So it's essentially just Jane and I. So
Well, Judy and I are going to be looking for a job if we don't take a minute and then bring our sponsors on.
Right.
So but there is that. So go right ahead, Mr. Ash. Right, back live in the studios here at WLCN, high on the road at Lazy Road, Wilton County Road 2250, as I remember.
Why is it Lazy Road?
I don't. It's been Lazy Road since I was a pup, and that's 98 years. So, so I don't ask that question, Judith. Now, before we went on air, Judith and Mr. Viner were discussing matters of importance. Judith K., you had something that you wanted to pursue with Mr. Viner.
Well, he brought up the subject of doing your homework before you go out to find the cute little puppy. And that is so important. Let's talk about what you should know and what you should be prepared for. If, now that spring is here and the kids will be getting out of school and they'd love to have a puppy or a kitten. I'm not a cat person, as it turns out, like my friend Jim is here. But if you're thinking along these lines, do your homework first. Let's talk about that, Matt. What in the world you should be prepared for?
The biggest one is financial. Like if you can't afford it, don't get an animal. It's not going to help them at all,
Right.
and it's not going to help you. You'll catch yourself in a bind where you might have a vet bill for $1,000. You can't pay for that. So money would be the very first thing. Secondly would be whether you're getting a cat or a dog. What includes that, like the vet, going to the vet yearly. It is state law that you have to at least have a rabies per year. There are 1 year rabies and there's 3 year rabies. Also, I totally recommend distemper parvo, because that's definitely been going around, and that's very lethal to your dogs. Also,
Do cats get parvo too?
there is a strain of parvo that they can get to.
Uh-huh.
If they go outside, then they're more susceptible to that.
Sure.
So look into what kind of breed you're getting. I'm pretty sure you could probably get on Google and then just Google, like, what is the life expectancy, and then Google on average how much does it cost yearly for vet visits, stuff like that, and you can probably just put together, 9 years this dog might live, each year it's going to cost this, something that, you know what I mean, like something pertaining to that. Also, this is my biggest pet peeve, and I say this to people all the time. It is not a state law or a federal law to own an animal. So you don't have to own one.
Yeah.
That's huge. Like, if it was a law, then I can understand it. But if you can't take care of yourself, don't go get an animal. So that's huge.
You're just piling more on.
Yeah, and then they end up with us, is what it comes down to. And yes, it takes work for us to get them out and stuff like that, but that could be avoided if you just thought a little bit about what you're getting into. So,
You're sitting here in this studio looking right across the table at old Bill here. Gene and I moved into the Christian Village here 3 years ago, and we've always had dogs.
That's because they couldn't stand living next door to me after 44 years.
Well, 44 years next door to Mrs. Busby. In any event, and she followed us. She pointed for us. Anyway, I'd like to have a dog, but I have to admit here on the air, in front of God and everybody, that I'm too selfish to have a dog. And I say that because a dog requires attention, and if you're going to get one, give it attention, or don't get a dog at all, or a pet, period.
Yep.
Whatever. Give it the time
it
and
needs
the
love.
effort it needs.
It needs love.
And that means it's at 10 o'clock at night when I'm in bed for an hour or so, I don't want to get up and put the dog out. And at 6 in the morning, I don't want to get up and put the dog out. So I'm selfish, and I admit that. But I'd love to have a dog out there. But
you're more than welcome to
the point of my mentioning it is
to our facility, and
don't do an animal a disservice if you're not going to take care of it.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Simple as that.
We're in the business of taking care of them. We're not.
Now you're under your work for Logan County Animal Control, and Logan County Animal Control is under the jurisdiction of our Department of Agriculture, the state of Illinois.
Yes.
Now, do they come often, or
yes? And I believe there's a new person that's going to be coming. Keith Schmidt is our ag person, but I think he's retiring. But he did stop by, I think, a month ago. They go through the facility, make sure everything's up and running. Mm-hmm. There has to be like proper paperwork that is filed, especially licensing, stuff like that he has to take care of. There are incidences where he will call us to go check out like a farm, because we don't do anything with like horses or sheep or.
You're just small animals.
We're just cats and dogs. Mm-hmm. We do deal with bats too, but if they have an issue, if somebody has like a horse that looks like it's not been fed or something like that, we'll go by and check it out, and then we'll call him and say, hey, yeah, like you need to take time to come out here and check this out. And then they usually get fined, or they can even get their animals taken from them. That's under the Humane Care Act. But he deals with like all of the central Illinois, so he has a huge area to deal with stuff. So he uses the animal control facilities to like go out and check stuff out for him to see, because there's a lot of times where family members are fighting that are farmers, and the brother will call on the other brother and say, hey, they're not taking care of their animals, and we go out there and everything's fine, and they're just feuding, and they're like, okay, you're wasting our time.
Oh dear, yes.
Now tell me, sir, do you get calls about strays. And then, as a part of your duties, do you go out to look for strays and pick them up?
Are you
That's a
talking about
difficult.
cats?
That's kind of a dangerous thing.
Cats, no, we don't do that. As you can tell, cats can climb trees. We don't climb trees.
Not
we
many
don't
dogs
chase
do.
cats. We do have traps that people can rent or put it down. It's a deposit, is what it is. It's $25 cash. You get the deposit back when you bring the trap back.
Well, that's smart though, because otherwise the trap could just be put aside.
One of our biggest issues is a lot of people, and I did this when I was younger too, so I'm guilty of it. Cats are essentially wild animals. They are outside a lot. When they're outside, they're ferals. Don't mess with them. We tell people don't mess with them. If they look really sick, then call us and we'll come try to do something. We'll try to catch it and take it to a vet or something like that. But if they're just going, even if they're coming into your house and stuff like that, it's actually, I think it's a city ordinance or a city, or even maybe a state, maybe it's just city, but it's illegal to feed them. You're supposed to just leave them alone. And right now it's breeding season for them, so we're gonna end up with a ton of kittens. But a lot of people go out there and pick them up. They don't realize the bad things that can happen. If you get bit by a cat, you can become septic at some point. You can maybe even die. There's so much bacteria in their mouths and stuff like that if you get bit, you have to go to the hospital. You'll end up getting probably a tetanus shot or something like that, plus antibiotics. Yeah, I think one of our last assistants, Dwayne, he got bit and he ended up in the hospital for 3 days.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. So don't mess with feral cats.
No.
I know a lot of people are trying to think that they're doing good by being I'll help you out or I'll feed you and stuff like that. You just leave them alone. It's the same concept as foxes or coyotes. You don't feed them. You don't try to bring them in. Just leave the cats alone. That's our hugest thing. And you can seriously get hurt. You can get cat scratch fever. I never thought that was a thing until I started working for Dr. Gillen.
I've heard that term.
And I was like, really? I heard the song, but I didn't know it was real.
648-5510. 648-5510. Mr. Matt Viner, representing Logan County Animal Control. Kind of one of those things we don't think much about it unless we find a stray dog or cat hanging around our house, then we start getting nervous. What happens now if you pick up a stray on North Logan Street? Tell us what will happen to that animal from the time you pick it up till whenever.
Well, when it's a dog, we'll bring it into the facility, check it for a microchip.
Where do they put those microchips? On the shoulders, sir?
Yeah, right in between the shoulder blades of the animal. It's good to have one. Definitely good to have one. Especially, if your dog gets loose, stuff like that, we're able to track you immediately. And hopefully, if we can do that, which I've done before in the past, if we can track you immediately and find out where you live or your phone number, stuff like that, we won't bring the dog in and intake the dog. And then we'll just give the dog back to you without you having to pay for anything. Because we, like I said earlier during the break, we don't want your animals at all.
I'm sure
we want you guys
plenty.
to have your animals. We just want to make sure they're safe. So when they're running and stuff, a lot of people get angry at us about picking up their dogs. But your dog could have got hit by a car and died. So, we're actually trying to help the dog by getting it off the streets so it doesn't get hit by cars. So, we're trying to do good. But people do get upset with us when they do have to pay for the services.
People get upset with one thing and the next. Can I bore you for just 1 second? Or 10. I have to tell you how I got my last dog. You'll recall fondly, boys. Murphy, the barking dog.
Murphy was a great little dog.
But I worked at the hospital at the time, and a young lady came up to me and said she wanted to go visit her parents. She worked at the hospital too. And would I keep her dog for the weekend so she could go call on her parents. And I said, yeah, I could do that. And so she brought me Murphy, and he lived to be about 17. It was the longest weekend of my life. I had Murphy for his whole life. And he barked.
Did you go to Dr. Gillen's office? Did you guys...
I maybe did.
Was it a black and white dog?
Oh, no, he was a Maltese.
Oh, okay.
He was all white.
There was this Murphy that I knew that used to come
I've
in.
heard other dogs named Murphy. Well, he came with that name. It's not very Norwegian, you know.
Murphy was just Murphy. He wasn't an esoteric dog. Which reminds me of our former neighbor when I lived on Lincoln Avenue down the street. She was kind of an eccentric. Well, she had some money, so she was eccentric. If she hadn't had the money she had, she'd just been nuts. But because she had money, she was considered eccentric.
Yeah.
And so she had these two little corgis. And she'd walk them down the street with her negligee on.
Those dogs are awesome. That's a really... It's a weird breed, but it's so cute. The corgis are so cute. Mm-hmm. One of the bad things about that is they can't clean themselves properly, so you might end up having to wipe them after they go to the bathroom.
That'd be the day.
No, I already had 3 kids for that, thanks.
But they are awesome dogs. They're lovable dogs.
Well, dogs are lovable, and you do love it. I mean, I would never have just arbitrarily given Murphy to somebody I really didn't even know.
Right.
You know.
They become your family. That's essentially that's it.
And after so many years, heck, a canary could have been my family.
Well, you've had a lot of experience with different breeds of animals. We were talking off air this morning about the pit bull, and it has a bad reputation because people trained it poorly and badly. They trained it to fight and so forth, and so the doggone breed got a bad reputation. My grandson brought one home. I think he paid pretty good money for this pup. Turned out to be a wonderful dog. The dog was raised in loving care, and never for 1 second was ever a problem until it got sick. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't its fault. So, but people need to treat animals kindly.
Yes. There's a lot of the, even Jane can contest to this, a lot of our bites that we have to quarantine, because with a bite, and if somebody goes to the hospital of it, then we have to quarantine the dog, even if it's had a rabies shot, for 10 days, and then we have to let a vet take a look at it and make sure that it doesn't show any signs. Our main concern through the state of Illinois, through Department of Ag, is rabies. That's all we're supposed to be worried about is rabies.
Oh, okay.
So because it can affect humans and kill us. We've had a guy that I think just passed away a couple months ago. Was in a different county. Got bit by a bat. Didn't do anything about it. The bat ended up having rabies. He went to the doctor, I think like a month and a half later, told him what happened, and he was showing signs, and he ended up eventually passing away.
Oh dear.
So it's a big deal. Rabies can get transferred. That's one of like one of very severe things that can transfer from animal to human.
Let's talk a little bit about that bat business. I've not ever seen one in any house I've ever lived in, but people get them in their house.
Yes, they do. They're scary.
Well, they're just not pretty.
No, they're
they
not.
They can't help that.
But yeah, if there is a bat in your house, we can enter your structure and help you out that way. But we usually take the bat, and then if it's in a living or like in a sleeping quarter. So like if it's in your room where you sleep, then we'll take it and get it tested. But if it's not, if it's like in your garage and we grab it, we just release it out into the wild. Because bats are good for your environment, so we're not going to just kill it. So,
but if you've not been bitten by it, even though it is in your bedroom,
you don't know sometimes because they have such small teeth.
Oh, really?
So you don't even know that you may have been bitten.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Mr. Viner, somebody's looking for a dog. age not important in here in the conversation. How does one proceed to go out to Logan County Animal Control and see if there are any adoptions available?
Well, you just come out and look. Like, we're open from 10:30 Monday through Friday from 10:30 till noon. Then we take a lunch break and we come back at 1 to 4:30. Now, like I said earlier, it's just Jane and I. So if we get called out, we'll put up a sign and say that, we got called out. We'll be back. Usually it only takes about half an hour, depending on where we're going. But you'll come in, you'll look at the animals, possibly pick one out. Then you have to fill out an application. That application process consists of us. If you've never had a pet before, then we kind of vet you. We kind of work with you to see what kind of owners you might be. If you've ever had an animal with, living with your parents or something like that, like people with new, we don't want to give them like a big giant dog that might tear up their house or something like that. So there are some dogs that we know their behavior that we can match them with. There might be a dog that's not good with kids, might be a dog that's not good with women, stuff like that. So eventually they'll just sign or fill out the application, and then we vet them. If they've owned pets before, or if they currently owning pets, if you're wanting to adopt, you have to make sure that all your animals that you currently own are up to date on their vaccines, and then we usually call their vet and make sure that they're good pet owners. So we do vet them. And we also, like, if you're renting or if you own a house, that's fine. If you're renting, we have to talk to the landlord to make sure that the landlord knows that you're going to be having a pet there and that it's okay and stuff like that. So we do vet people out. But essentially, we want to get the animals to a great home. We're not going to like pick and choose like which ones go where. Yeah. It's like, if you want an animal, we'll give you, the benefit of the doubt to at least.
Did you ever see a love at first sight situation out there between the dogs?
Yes, and it literally
people?
Left that day, and I don't know. It was weird. Right? That dog came in. I can't remember the dog's name. It came in and it was only there for like 4 hours, if that. And somebody came in, he's like, I want that dog. And it was an owner release. So and it was already up to date on shots, it had already been fixed, had a microchip. We just gave the dog to him. We didn't even charge him for the adoption fee. We were just like, have the dog.
The dog.
And then we were like, if you want to come, I was like, see how it goes, because he had other animals. Like, see how it goes with your other animals. You're more than welcome to call us and bring him back. And I think he called us like a month after that, and he's like, I love this dog. And we're like, yes, it worked out. So there are some ways that we can just go around stuff so that you don't have to pay so much for an animal or anything like that. Like, we have one right now that's completely vaccinated, neutered, microchipped already. And then somebody had called about that dog the other day, and the adoption fee is $120, and we told them, we'll give it to you for $60. It's like, if you really want the dog, we'll cut it in half, and we'll $60.
Is it easier to adopt a dog than from the control step, from your standpoint? Is it easier to adopt dogs out than cats? Not necessarily.
No, I think it's easier for cats, but
really,
yeah, because they're smaller and they don't take much. The dog with cats, they're all their own person, basically. So they'll either like you or they don't. Whereas, like I said earlier, we know some dogs aren't good with females or children, so it's harder to adopt when a family comes in with kids, and we're like, yeah, you can't have that one because it's not good with children.
Yeah, right.
So you have to kind of like pick between what, and sometimes you don't get those people. Like, we have a dog right now that is only good with men, and we can only adopt it to men. But there's not many men coming in just that live by themselves that are willing or wanting to adopt. So
right.
Well, Judith, with apologies to Jim's Mabel, dogs have more personality than cats.
But Jim loves his Mabel, doesn't he?
Mabel's a different cat. Mabel runs the store up here.
Yeah, she does. Well, cats are like that. They're kind of bossy, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
In a word.
They do. They'll whine. They'll sit there and meow, and you won't know what they want. And you're like, what? Like, I don't know. Like, please tell me.
I'm sitting here thinking, you're not only doing the county service with offering the Logan County Animal Control insofar as stray dogs and stray pets are concerned, but you're doing the pets a whale of a service because you're finding them nice homes.
Yes.
Which is a side product.
Yes.
And you're making a really great pet out of an average animal.
Yes, and we try to work with them. Like I was mentioned earlier, we had a dog that came in that was really aggressive, and I started working with him, and now we're able to pet him and be able to bring him in and out. Okay, I still want to work with him. Before we could he's kind of weird. Like if you go to pet him, he almost looks like he's growling at you or like about to show his teeth. Yeah. But he's not. He's smiling, and that's what it is. And you're like, and you pet him. You like at first you look at him, you're like, oh, are you about to bite me? And then you just reach down, and he's just smiling because he's happy that you're willing to pet him and love on him. So
that's so funny because I've heard people talk about dogs smiling, and
at first we were sketchy, like, is he gonna bite us? And then we were
648-5510. 648-5510. Guest this morning, Mr. Matthew Viner. They're doing us a service and doing the animals in the county a service. Animal control, is it legislated that each county have to have one or make provisions for some care?
For an animal control, yes. Each county is supposed to.
And if we don't, then they have to pay a fine of some sort.
I'm sure
in some cases, it's probably
sort
cheaper
of government
to pay the fine.
overreach in that.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Are people, generally speaking, either a cat person or a dog person and not all of the above?
Yeah. There's, I've had, working for Dr. Gillen for so many years, you'd see a biker come in with a tiny Yorkie or something like that, and you're just like, okay, like this is different. Or you'd see, vice versa, with cats, like with a little kitten or something like that, and it's just whatever you prefer. I have friends that just prefer cats because they take care of themselves. There's not much maintenance other than the litter box or in case there's medical issues. Dogs, you have to pay attention to them because they could either get into stuff, they could tear up your house, get loose, start running, all sorts of stuff. Whereas a cat kind of just sticks around, does its own thing. But I mean, those are different ways to look at it. If you're looking at whether you want a dog or a cat, or if you are that person or not. Some people don't like dogs. Some people don't like cats.
Right.
I'm not a huge fan of cats, but I love all animals.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. But now, people being a cat person or a dog person, how does that come about? Is that in their upbringing, I assume? If your mom always had cats?
Possibly.
Like cats?
Growing up, I had dogs and cats. So I think what turned me on cats was working at the vet with Dr. Gillen, because they can be faster than snakes. And I've got so many scars of scratches and all sorts of stuff. You don't know their demeanor, and they could just turn on you real quick. So
some say you never own a cat. Actually,
nope, they own you.
The cat is living with you right now.
Right, you're living with the cat.
There you go.
Am I correct, sir, that we have 3 veterinary services here in Logan?
Yeah, we have Green Prairie. I think they just changed their name. It used to be Best Friends. That one's out on 5th Street. We have Timbercrest. That's on Route 10, like headed out towards Clinton. MVP, which is actually 2 doors down from us on Kickapoo Street. And then here in Atlanta, you guys have the Timbercrest over by 217, the bar, like just past that, like headed out towards McLean.
But today's veterinary practice here in Logan County is primarily essentially small animals like dogs and
All
cats.
small animals.
When I was
think,
a kid, livestock was a big thing on the farms. We don't have.
Timbercrest does horses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Timbercrest does horses. Also, I believe
yeah.
Green Prairie in St.
That takes a
Joe's, they
special
do
practice.
They do horses, like big cattle, stuff like that, cows.
I think Dr. Kvitley used to do big animals too.
Yeah, probably. But I know, like in Lincoln, they're all small animals. And if you have exotic animals, you're usually looking at going out of town for those services for like birds or lizards.
I always thought people who had exotic animals were a little exotic themselves.
They can be.
But I don't even want a garter snake, let alone snakes with people. People collect snakes, for goodness
Oh, yeah.
sake.
Oh yeah,
do.
they like them.
Pretty hard to pet a snake, I think.
I suppose you have to work at it.
Is there one big problem that you face daily when you go to work, Matt?
One big problem. Not necessarily.
Well, making sure the place is staffed so the dogs and cats will be
that's
taken
actually
care
a
of.
huge problem right now.
Yeah.
Well, it will be. Last year, we lost all contracts to all the surrounding townships because we didn't have staff, and that was during COVID, mind
Yes.
you. So, like I said, we are looking for staff to come out. It's part-time. We're mainly looking for people to do on-calls and work weekends. But yeah, that's going to turn into another big issue. So we lost all the contracts that way. So essentially, we charge each township if we have to go out to do something but there's a few townships that got on board to where their mayor or whoever's in charge of that township will have to call them first to see if it's okay for us to come out and look for this dog that's running loose or something like that.
Really?
And if they don't want us to come out, then we don't come out.
Why would they not want you?
Because they'll take care of it themselves.
Oh, okay.
So they'll go ahead and be like, no, we're on it, because we'll charge them a fee to go out there. But hopefully when we get fully staffed, then we can get under contract with them again, and then have more funding to help take care of the animals and be able to have the access to the stuff that we need, like leashes and stuff like that. And you can also donate to us. I don't recommend donating cash because that goes to the county and you don't know where that goes. And I'm sure somebody from the county's listening to this being like, what?
Well, Illinois has kind of a testy reputation.
Right. So if you plan on donating food, cleaning supplies, leashes, food bowls, blankets, towels, stuff like that. That's our main need. But if you really want to donate cash, who helps us out the most is Logan County Animal Rescue, and that's Kelly Kale. She is the one that takes all of our animals, or a big majority of our animals, and puts them into no-kill shelters so that they're able to get adopted out by the proper people.
Now, are there diseases that will cross the line between people and pets? For instance, I was thinking about, you mentioned COVID, and that's been around now for a couple of years. Have you seen any animals that get COVID?
They said, I don't know, like you're talking about 0.00001% maybe. We've never had an animal with COVID, so I don't know, whoever came up with, maybe the CDC had maybe a few cases. I don't know. But when I was working with Dr. Gillen at Lincoln Animal Hospital, we even said, like, even Dr. Gillen, he's just a really smart man. He's like, there's no way that it would cross, like,
Exactly.
And he's a doctor, so I'm going to listen to the doctor.
Amen.
So, but yeah, I don't even know if there's that many cases, if any, to be even concerned about. And even if they got COVID, like, what were the signs and symptoms that they had? Because it doesn't, I don't know. But we weren't really worried about any of that. The only ones that we're essentially worried about is rabies, because that could definitely kill you. So
well, and that can cross the line between people and pets.
Yes.
Yeah, the thing we have to remember is your guest out there, they require daily attention. Just
Yep.
because it's Sunday doesn't mean that they don't need to be fed and watered.
Yep. So we
And
do
so
weekends.
You have to have a staff that.
We're not open on weekends, but we do
I
have staff
understand
go
that,
in.
but you've got to have somebody go in there and take care of these animals.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. So we appreciate
During
that.
winter time was rough, especially when we had all the snow.
Yeah, right.
Because
Yeah.
everybody else was shut down. The county was pretty much shut down. All the workers didn't have to go in, but we still did.
But,
so
yeah.
it was hard for us to like get from our houses to
Fido
the
doesn't
facility.
give a toot whether there's snow out there. He wants
Nope.
lunch.
That is absolutely right.
So essentially, it's you and one other person at the Logan County Animal Control.
Pretty much, yeah. So we are, like I said, we're
Hope you
looking
get
for-
along well.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird that we ended up working together because we worked together at Dr. Gillen's office, and I actually took her position when she left to go work for animal control. And then fast forward 8 or 9 years later, I was like, Dr. Gillen was retiring, and I was like, hey, is there a position open? And she's like, absolutely, come work with me. So the good part about that is we were actually in the medical field first.
Yes.
So we know, like, if we do get a sick animal and stuff like that, we might be able to tell what it is and be able to, kind of like a paramedic going into the hospital, and you have a patient with them, and you're like, this is what's going on, you know the jargon to be able to tell to the vet so that they have a good idea what they're looking for.
Well, I have no possible way of knowing how many households have pets, but there are plenty of them here in Logan
Yes,
County.
there is actually a law, or you're only allowed up to 4 pets.
Oh, really?
Yes. Actually, it might be an ordinance. Maybe not a law.
Well, we're lucky to have the
4
veterinarians.
pets. So it could be 3 cats and 1 dog, 2 dogs, 2 cats. But you can apply for a multi-pet license and have I think it's up to whatever amount you want after that. But I think it's $25 a year. You'll get a hold of West Woodhall through the city for that license. Actually, we just had somebody the other day that applied for a license. They take their animals down to Taylorville, so I had to call and make sure that all their animals were up to date on vaccines. It ended up they had 11 animals altogether, and I was like, how? How are you able to do that?
And
but when I
why?
talked to their vet, all of them are vaccinated, all of them are on heartworm preventative, all of them are on flea preventative. You're just like, okay. I was like, yes. I was like, you're good to go. That sounds good.
11 of anything is a lot.
It is. Absolutely. That's why I'm just like baffled by wow, that's a lot of animals, but they take care of them. So
That's all that matters.
Our guest this morning, Matthew Viner, Logan County Animal Control. Matt, we appreciate your taking your time today.
absolutely.
Come up and visit with us. If I can talk Mrs. Busby into buy you breakfast on the way home, but I have to get permission from Mrs. Busby first. Thank you very much for Viewpoint.
Thank you.